In today's episode, Jared Doerfler shares his journey from a young golfer to the founder of Hanna Golf and the creator of the Perfect Putt newsletter. He discusses the challenges and triumphs of starting a business in the golf industry, the importance of support systems, and the evolution of golf as a sport. Jared emphasizes the significance of resilience, discipline, and community in entrepreneurship, while also sharing personal anecdotes about his family and the inspiration behind his brand. We hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome to The Range, the podcast where we explore the intersection of passion and business in the world of golf. I'm your host, Ari Ratner, and each episode will dive into the stories of the innovators, entrepreneurs, and trailblazers who are transforming the game we love into thriving businesses. Whether you're a golf enthusiast, an inspiring entrepreneur, or just curious about the business behind the sport, you're in the right place. So grab your clubs and join us on The Range as we tee off into the world of golf entrepreneurship. All right, we are here with Jared Doerfler, golfer, writer, father, entrepreneur, and founder of Hanna Golf. Jared, appreciate you joining the podcast and welcome.
What's up, Ari? Happy to chat with you.
Yeah, so, this podcast, we are in our first episode, so really excited to talk to Jared and hear about the inspiration behind Hanna. I want to dig in on Perfect Putt, which is his newsletter. But first, Jared, would love to just hear you introduce yourself to the audience, give a little background into your story and your connection to the golf industry.
Yeah, I started playing golf young, like a lot of people do with my dad and my grandfather. Dream was to play Division I golf, wasn't talented enough, and really just didn't really have the resources to do so in rural Iowa growing up. So ended up playing at a small school my freshman year that actually ended up walking on to a Division I school where one thing I'm really proud of that moment is I actually just didn't fill a roster spot. I played in most every tournament there. So ended up fulfilling that dream, which changed my life. And a lot of the reason why that changed my life is because somebody took a chance on me. So loyalty and work ethic kind of really reared its head there for me. That was a huge crucible moment for me. After college, I was a little burned out, so I didn't play for a number of years. And then when I was in my late 20s, I started to play a little bit more and, decided to start writing a newsletter 3 years ago on the business side of golf. So I was never really in the golf industry, but very curious about golf and very curious about the business side of golf, more importantly. And as I was writing that and learning and researching, I decided I'd rather be in the golf space rather than write about it. And so I launched a putter company called Hanna Golf, July of this year, which has been the hardest thing by far of my professional career that I've ever done for a lot of different reasons. But yeah, that's where we're at today. So I'm intertwining golf with the newsletter, Perfect Putt, and Hanna Golf.
Yeah, talk a little bit about Perfect Putt and what drove you to start the newsletter, how you consistently put out a newsletter weekly, monthly, and just talk about how you balance both the production of the newsletter as well as running the business.
Well, I'll just take the last one off the top. There's not a balance at all. It's not a great spot right now, I don't think, from either standpoint. There's only so much time, but I know we'll get better here. It's a hectic period, but that's all right. We'll embrace the hectic period. I got in the newsletter, but I was finishing an MBA course program, and I had an elective to burn, so I took entrepreneurship and innovation, and the instructor was big on writing online. This was 2021, spring of 2021. So kind of before the newsletter craze. He was more talking about blogs. And the reason why he said we should write online is there's really twofold. You're going to have to be disciplined, and we can talk about that in a second. And then also accountability, because, if you're going to write, a weekly blog post, readers are going to expect that. And so you have to hold yourself accountable. And then, the one part that I saw on that as well is being able to accept criticism from people that you don't know. Rarely do any of us read anything that we agree with 100%. And some people are certainly loud enough to let you know that. And so you kind of have to understand and accept criticism from people you don't know. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll start like a newsletter. Like I don't think I'm a great writer or anything like that, but I like the idea of building something and keeps me curious. And so decided that we'd start writing about the business side of golf, which has been a fun journey. I didn't have any following before that. So just like, you can truly build an audience with nothing. It takes a lot of hard work and discipline. But today, we're closing in on 11,000 subscribers, which isn't a lot in the grand scheme of things, but I'm proud of that number of where we're at. And another thing is, it's like all those newsletter subscribers they're all organic. None of those are paid media subscribers, which is pretty cool. Partly because I just don't have any money to acquire subscribers. But yeah, the newsletter has been really fun to write. Now, from a weekly standpoint, like anyone can write a newsletter once. Most anyone can write a newsletter 4 times. If I say I'm going to go start a newsletter about finance tomorrow, which I would not be subject expert on, but let's just say I wanted to do it, weekly newsletter, I could probably bang out, 1 for sure and probably 4. Do it for 3 months or do it for 6 months or do it for a year. It's most like anything. Same goes with podcasts. A lot of people can record 1 podcast, but can you record 100? And so just building that habit and building that muscle of, continuing to show up.
You talked a little bit about discipline. You talked about the ability to take criticism and adjust based on it. What are some other similarities you've found with running the newsletter to running Hanna Golf?
Well, there's not too many similarities out of kind of what you just said with discipline and accountability, other than there's overlap in the industry, which has been really, really good and important for me. There's a lot of people that I've been fortunate enough to meet along the way with writing the newsletter. And the cool thing about the newsletter is those are influential people in the business world of golf. And so, that was kind of just by pure luck that happened. I didn't have this grandiose idea that this would all take place. I don't want to don't give me that much credit. I'm not that smart, but that's been pretty neat to talk with, people in the past and build those relationships with those folks that, are fairly influential in the golf space. And then for them to kind of help me build this journey.
So when you started Perfect Putt, was Hanna in the back of your mind, or was it something that you developed as you were writing the newsletter?
No, I mean, Hanna Golf wasn't even a thought really until about a year and a half ago, really. This is the kind of the funny story with the newsletter is I had a buddy, Tyler Johnson, who started Charlie Golf, and we both said, all right, we'll start newsletters. He was big into, I kind of convinced him why he should write a newsletter after what my professor said, in that course. And he's like, all right, we'll do it. And so we had a bet for 6 months, and he was big into, he still is. He's got a big hobby into baseball cards. And that was kind of when card trading was going hot and you couldn't buy them anywhere. So his newsletter was based on that. And then mine was based on obviously Perfect Putt. Whoever had the most subscribers after 6 months won. I don't even know what the bet was. It was, I think at the time, like a Bobby Witt PSA 10, something along the lines of that. That may not even be true. But it was the PSA 10, whatever. Tyler lasted like 6 weeks and said he couldn't do it anymore. And so he still hasn't paid up on his bet, but I will at some point remind him of that here in the future.
Well, it's interesting because, and we're going to jump into Hanna Golf, but, Tyler and his brand is one that I follow and, would love to just kind of hear how your relationship with him has helped from an entrepreneurial standpoint. You guys are obviously both building your business from the ground up and in, no pun intended, in an infancy stage. Would love to just hear how you guys lean on each other as 2 entrepreneurs in the golf space, different businesses, but alike in so many ways.
Yeah, I mean, I've been really lucky to, know Tyler since I walked on at UNI. He actually also walked on his freshman year. And, we're pretty similar in the sense that if you go watch Tyler hit golf balls in the range, you're going to think there's no way this guy is going to score well. He's got a little bit of a untraditional golf swing. He's completely self-taught, very close to the top, but he's one of the best iron strikers I've ever played with in my life in college. And he was a hell of a college golfer, like very, very good college golfer, far better than I was. And so, we didn't really, I didn't play my first event when I got to UNI and he didn't either. And, I ended up playing the second event and he didn't play that one, but he ended up playing the third. And so then at that point we were hooked. We were grinding a lot while the team was traveling for those first few weeks of school. And, we also bonded over a few Busch Lights at some football tailgates. And, since then we've been very close friends. And, after college, Tyler moved to Kansas City. And then I moved there as well. So, ended up living in the same apartment complex 2 different times in Kansas City, which was a lot of fun. And then, my wife and I moved back to North Iowa, and then I convinced Tyler to move to North Iowa as well. And he's not from here. I'm from here. So there's kind of an excuse for me. So it's been a lot of fun to lean on him. He is such a junkyard dog, but more importantly, he's a great human being. He keeps me grounded in a lot of areas of my life. And it's been fun to kind of build these businesses together. He's had far more success, I think, than I certainly have. And he's really, been a good support for me for a lot of different questions that I have.
But, I think success is a relative term. And so, you should certainly feel very good about what you've built so far. And I know it's just the beginning. Talk a little bit about the inspiration behind Hanna and how you went from 0 to 1 in starting the business.
So, this is kind of the inflection point that I didn't really realize, but when I was in college, I got to school at Northern Iowa, and I went to the putting lab, and my coach is like, "You have the wrong putter," after about two putting strokes. I was putting with a traditional blade putter. Like everyone thought we should be putting with a blade putter back when I was in school, because that's what Tiger was putting with. And, he's like, "You need a mallet, you need a fat grip." And so he busted out this prototype putter that he got off a tour truck that he played at a PGA Championship in the 90s. And he probably didn't use that putter in I don't know how many years. Anyway, I used it and I really liked it. And when I graduated, I gave it back to him. So, I've never been able to find that putter. So, Iowa gets pretty cold in the winter. It's dark. You have some long days. And so I got bored January in 2022 and sketched out a design of what I thought that putter looked like. Then I had my brother-in-law make it in CAD for me, and I had a buddy in Texas. He has a machine shop there, and he made it for me. And yeah, it was a fun project. I posted photos. I'm never post on Reddit, but I posted photos on Reddit because I was proud of that. And that was kind of fun. And I actually have the putter. I actually have the putter right here. So this is the one that I ended up making or that I had somebody make for me at a machine shop. It's really just a piece of junk. It's just it's very simple. And I didn't know what I was doing at all when I was designing that. But I gamed this for a year and a half because I just loved the process. So anyway, as I began writing more about Perfect Putt, I kind of always had the entrepreneurial bug, and I really wanted to start something. And, we were only on this rock one time. And, luckily my wife and I worked our tails off in our 20s, and we could afford to make a risk. And so that doesn't mean it's easy. It just allows us to make that. And, so I decided, look, let's start a business, and wrote some things down. And, it was pretty simple for me. I had to be able to make it. And then I wanted to be in the golf space. And so what do those things look like, and kind of circled back to that putter deal and said, can I actually make putters? What does that look like? How much does CNC mills cost? Can I teach myself that, et cetera? And so, it went through a process of about 3 months of trying to evaluate if that was real. And then went to the Masters in 2023 and just said, I have to do it. And, probably not a great spot to make a life-changing decision at the Masters, because it's just a unique spot. So, anyway, that's how kind of Hanna Golf came to fruition there.
So, you touched on something around support and how you and your wife obviously saved up enough for you to make the leap, but talk to me a little bit about the people close in your life and their support, and how that gives you motivation and kind of the energy to overcome obstacles, to keep going when things aren't looking good. Talk to me about that support system.
Well, I like to say I have a good support system, but some days it could be better than what it is. And here's why I'll explain that. I taught myself machining. I had never seen a CNC mill before. And so I went out and bought one, and I just had no idea what I was doing. Well, where I'm located in Iowa, there's really nothing. There's hardly any machine shops. There's actually a machine shop. They call themselves 2 blocks away from where I'm at. I walked in there one time and walked out and thought to myself, there's got to be 1,000 OSHA violations going on there. And so, there's not really any mentors to pull on from that standpoint. And so, it was challenging. It's a lot of YouTube, and it was very, very difficult to figure out. Same goes for CAD and CAM, the two components that we go to make the designs. And so, that was really challenging. And on the other hand, entrepreneurship, right? Well, I'm in a city that was built on 2 cement plants and a door factory. There's not a lot of entrepreneurs in this town. There just isn't. And so, I like to surround myself with like-minded people, but unfortunately in my area, there's really, really not a lot. Now, I think, at the end of the day, it's really about grit and determination. And, my competitive advantage, or one of them is honestly my wife. And so, having a supportive significant other, a supportive spouse, whatever it is, keeps me really going. And then obviously, Tyler's been a huge support for me. And I mean, it's been interesting from the support standpoint. My pops has certainly helped out, although he was, he questioned my decision, I think pretty harshly for about 3 months. Before that, he's got that old school mentality that so many of his age do. It's funny because he was business owner himself. And so, it's like he understood it, but didn't understand it. I thought he thought to himself, golf putters, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But, he helps me out quite a bit, gives me a lot of perspective and a lot of wisdom. But that took some time to get. So, I'm very grateful for the support that I have. My immediate support, my in-laws are great too. But, it's been a challenge. It's a tough ecosystem to grow a business in North Iowa, let alone a golf business.
Yeah.
But there's also some pros to that. So I mean, it's been a work in progress, but I feel like I'm starting to find my footing a little bit.
How about the golf community? In my limited experience so far, I've found it to be a very welcoming community, especially in terms of trying to build a business. Would love to hear your perspective and your experience, both as a former competitive golfer, but also now as an entrepreneur.
I think there's different sectors of the golf community, and I'll just put them in different buckets. So like the business community of golf, the folks that are in the business industry are extremely kind and extremely welcoming. And I could not agree more. I have not met, I would honestly have not met a bad person in the space. And I've been fortunate to talk to a lot of people. Competitive junior golf, which I tried to crack into when I was, younger, obviously, is I think a little cliquey. And it's welcoming to a sense, but if you're not in that group of people, it's tough and it's challenging. And the same really goes for college golf to a certain extent if you play on these high level AM events in the summer. And so there is a little bit of that club, if you will. But generally as a whole, as a large whole, golf is extremely welcoming. It's been very supportive. I'm really humbled and grateful for the support. And I'll just give you 2 examples here that I think could kind of highlight those 2 things is that, my putters, as far as I understand it, I read the rules upside and down and from every way you can from a USGA conforming standpoint. As far as I understand, they conform with USGA rules. Now they're actually going through the process right now. So I'll hopefully find back here soon if we need to make any tweaks or anything. But as far as I understand it, they're USGA conforming, right? So I had no idea what to do. So actually another golf club company helped me out with that, which is kind of rare, if you think about it. And then another example is, I was struggling with Super Stroke grips. I was paying full retail price plus shipping and tax and everything. And, that's not ideal to build a business on. So, I was struggling trying to get a hold of them. So I just posted on Twitter, can anyone help me out with this? And then, a pretty popular player on the PGA Tour sent me a message, pretty quickly and said, get a hold of this person and tell them I sent you. And, the issue was resolved in 5 minutes. So, now I know what to do. So, those 2 things, people are super supportive. I'm very humble and grateful of those supporters.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's interesting to think about how on the business side, the golf community is coming together and helping each other and really kind of pushing entrepreneurs to be successful. You talked a little bit about how you got to the prototype. Talk about how you went from prototype to publishing a website to getting orders to shipping orders to now what you're doing to grow the business.
Yeah. Prototype, each putter was a little bit different journey. My traditional mid mallet, the El Reno, took the longest. There was just a lot of sound discrepancies I didn't like with that putter. And, that took me a while to kind of get the weight distributed correctly and make sure we had, a good feeling and good sounding putter. That took about 8 months. The Amarillo, which is a double wide blade, that was a little bit quicker. That was probably about 6 months to get to where we wanted. And the Denver model was actually about 2 or 3 months. I did that one sort of last. So I kind of knew what I was doing a little bit more. So, I was spending, a good majority of my time teaching myself how to use a CNC mill, CAD and CAM, and also, doing prototypes. And, the first 6 months I was, take one step forward, take three backwards, basically every day. I failed at something literally every single day. Which was, I wasn't really prepared for that mentally as I think I am now. Website, typically simple to put up a website. If I can do it, a lot of people can do it. I'm utilizing Shopify, which is really solid. And, it took a week or so to get my branding and my design right. And yeah, I mean, for me, it was leveraging that audience that I had built, on social, and then also with the newsletter to get those first orders to come through, and also leveraging the great people of Iowa. Iowa's a pretty golf crazed state, believe it or not. And, we may not have great golf courses in the state, but we have a lot of golf courses. Every community has a 9-hole golf course. If you have 200 people in your town, you still probably have a golf course. And so, did some events at these small rural golf courses, and, the support there was outstanding, and I was blown away by it. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of how we ended up shipping those first orders.
That's awesome. Talk about, if you can, the evolution of golf. As someone who played growing up, golf is constantly evolving, and certainly, it's becoming more and more popular. But talk about how the evolution has helped Hanna and where you see it going in the future.
Well, yeah, golf's certainly interesting. So, in the 90s and 2000s, I can remember the golf course being packed like every day with juniors, and maybe this is, again, regionalized to where I'm at, North Iowa. And I go out to that same golf course today, and there is like 0 juniors that are even involved, which is, kind of sad. Now, I think that's probably localized to where I'm at. But, golf's gone through these cycles, and, it was hot when Tiger started winning in the late 90s, early 2000s. And, Tiger was just spectacular for the game. If you look at the participation numbers back then, and then obviously the recession was a huge problem for golf. And we overdeveloped golf courses in the early 2000s and, had too many. And then all of them had a real estate component, and there wasn't a great emphasis on architecture, et cetera. We're kind of going through that renaissance since COVID now, and, of bringing back some architecture and being more mindful about that. And, yeah, I mean, golf has never been better. You can look at the demographics between juniors and females. If COVID was really the sole bump of golf, and, it didn't sustain itself, or if the COVID bump was males, 35 to 50, I think I would be a little bit more concerned about jumping into the industry. But if you look at where we're at with juniors and the growth of juniors and the growth of women, golf has built this incredible foundation over the last 4 years since COVID, and, it's able to continue to sustain itself. If you look at golf rounds this year, again, they're up, which really is just a testament to the strength and the resilience of this game, and how much people want to continue to play it, that have gotten hooked onto it. I've talked to so many people that call themselves COVID golfers, and they always give themselves a preface, sorry. Like, don't say it's sorry. It's awesome that you're in the game. And so, there's like, I love it. I'm hooked. And, yeah, I think we're in a really good spot right now going forward with golf. And then especially if we look at alternative forms of golf, which I'm really excited about, because, golf doesn't have to be played on an 18-hole course. Whether it's a par 3 or lighted par 3, or whether it's, at Top Golf or Putt Shack, I think there's a lot of different forms of golf that lead in this big funnel of, eventually being a green grass golfer.
Yeah. Yeah. I myself am a COVID golfer. The sad part of my story is I grew up on a golf course and didn't pick it up until 4 years ago. But I'm hooked, and it's an easy game to get hooked on. Reverting back a little bit to your story with Hanna, talk to me a little bit about the name, and also the names of the putters. How are you going about developing the nomenclature?
Yeah. So again, I want to call myself a creative person by any means. The name Hanna is a combination of my 2 daughters' names. And so I have 2 daughters and a son. The son came recently. So after the business has started. So, if that's ever a problem, then that means we have a good problem on our hands, means that the business is still running. So the logo is a tiger. Actually, my oldest daughter's, her favorite stuffed animal is a tiger. So again, just try to do something a little bit unique with some cool script and a simple logo. Names of the putters was a pretty easy decision for me. They're each named after cities my grandfather lived in. My grandfather was born in 1926, and like a lot of people his age, is just really a special generation in a lot of different ways. They survived the Great Depression anyway. So he was born in El Reno, Oklahoma, and moved to Amarillo, Texas pretty young with his family, very poor growing up. Very 3-bedroom house, 2-bedroom house, and with 9 siblings, and survived the Great Depression, survived that Dust Bowl in Amarillo, Texas, scarlet fever, got struck by lightning when he was 12, couldn't even finish high school. He was actually held back a grade due to scarlet fever because he had to quarantine for 3 months. And, you think about COVID now and quarantine, and, that was really tough, I think, for a lot of people, and just, getting our mental state around that. But, my grandfather was around, he wouldn't think it was that big of a deal. Not that it wasn't a big deal. It's because he'd seen, believe it or not, worse. And so he was drafted into World War II after his junior year of high school. And he went fought the Battle of the Bulge, which is the bloodiest battle of on the U.S. side for casualties, and survived, obviously, came home, went to University of Denver on the GI Bill. So I've got the El Reno, the Amarillo, and the Denver, and my grandfather is a testament to the American dream. Didn't create wealth, but created opportunities, and I think that was all what it was about. He wanted to provide his kids a better life than he had grown up, and he certainly did that. So just going to college for himself was a big deal, and then both of his kids went to college, and that trickles down. He changed our family tree. And so my grandfather was a huge influence on me growing up, playing golf. What a character. Gave himself every putt inside 10 feet, but said he was the best putter at the golf course every time he went out. And he really was a huge support system for me. So it was an easy decision to name the putters after towns he lived in. He really had a part in this company.
Yeah. It's a great story. One trait that I'm hearing, as you tell the story of your grandfather, is resilience. And, as this is a podcast that sits at the intersection of golf and entrepreneurship, it's obvious that resilience is something that every entrepreneur needs. Would love to kind of hear your perspective on what are some other traits that have allowed you to get to the point to where you're at, but also just generally speaking, what are some other entrepreneurial traits that are needed to find success in the business? Man,
that's such a great question, because there's so many of them, yet so few of them, if that makes any sense. I'll start with this is, I think of myself as an underdog in a lot of different ways, and I believe it to be the case. You call this a crazy idea or a dumb idea, but empty your bank account, essentially your life savings minus your retirement accounts, to start a putter company, a well-established industry with no experience whatsoever, is probably not the greatest idea to make money. I also was able to walk on and play Division I golf, and again, that gave me the confidence that if I set my mind to something, I can do it. So again, I think those things are really, you got to have incredible perseverance and determination, because there are far more bad days than there are good. And you really have to begin with the end in mind. The more steady you are, from just a mental state, not take too many highs or lows, and you have a more even keel, you can't get too happy with a good day, and you can't get too bad with a bad day. And so you're able to kind of level yourself out a little bit. But yeah, just really have that grit and perseverance. If you're going to get into a business solely to make money and to get rich, you probably won't be successful. You have to have some level of passion to be able to connect with the consumer and also to create a great product.
That's awesome. Talk a little bit about the vision for the future of Hanna.
Yeah, I get asked that by friends or whatever it may be, and I was like, my sister-in-law got married last weekend, and some family members asked me, well, what do you want it to be? And honestly, this is probably a bad answer, but I don't know. I have the same answer with Perfect Putt. I don't know. I know what I want to achieve in the next 6 to 12 months. And that really is, I want to continue to scale the business. I want to offer some limited releases. I want to come up with some new designs. I want to get some more equipment. I'd like to bring somebody on full time, maybe 2 people on full time. But to do those things, we have to have positive cash flow since I bootstrapped this business. And so, those are my immediate goals. I look out in the crystal ball 5-10 years from now. What I'd like to have is I'd like to have a company that's, a smaller company. Maybe it's 10-12 people with a dozen mills spinning and see what happens. At the end of the day, Ari, I don't know, I'm not going to swear on this, but I just want to make cool stuff. I want to make cool stuff for the golfer that, is a reasonable price. Now, I will say price is not a strategy for us at Hanna Golf. We're not a like a low price leader. However, there are a lot of putters that cost significantly more money. And so, there is that sweet spot of price that we can, give to maybe the everyday golfer that some people may not be able to afford or don't want to spend the money on. So, I think that's important to us as well. So I wish I had a better answer for you. It's not, maybe that's just because I'm just too ingrained on, surviving the next day. But, hopefully we just continue to build and continue to get orders and see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's important to, as you mentioned, have an understanding of the future, but also the reality of keeping the business going and making sure that you're achieving the daily objectives or needs that you need to accomplish. So I think it's a great answer. We're coming up to the end of the recording. Ask you some rapid fire questions, not business related, more golf related, just to give the audience a sense of you as a golfer and as an individual. Does that sound good?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool. First question, what's your favorite golf course to play on?
The rapid fire is not going to work for me, Ari, because I got to think. Yeah, there's so many cool golf courses I've been able to play that, they're not top 100s or anything like that. But
that's okay. It's your favorite golf course, not.
Yeah. No, I really enjoy Prairie Club. The Dunes course at Prairie Club is absolutely tremendous, and I feel like that's how golf should be played. I just love it. You're out in the wild, wild west, I feel like, still, and you're just like time stands still a little bit out there, and that's true inland links and how it should be played, and just a tremendous golf course.
That's awesome. The next question is, I assume, will be an easy answer. Driver or putter? Which club do you trust the most?
Putter. I mean, my driver has gone sideways since junior year of college, so it's putter.
Are you typically hit irons off the tee, or you still bring it out?
No, we still try to bust a cut out there and see what happens.
Nice. Who's your golf hero or biggest inspiration in the sport?
And I mean, my golf heroes, I would probably say, like, I really love Zach's story. Obviously it's because he's from Iowa, and Iowans aren't supposed to play on the PGA Tour. Zach's arc, and him being the underdog, him going to Drake University, him being the third best player on Drake, and actually his college coach is my wife's cousin at Drake, and I'm just understanding what he kind of had to battle through and go through at Drake, and he didn't really he wanted to play at Iowa, and it wasn't good enough. He wasn't even the best player on his high school team in Iowa, and him going to win 3 Hooters events in a row, and back to back Zach, and then obviously winning 2 majors, I think, is cool. I wish it would have turned out differently for him at the Ryder Cup. It would have been a really cool story. But Iowans are really proud of Zach, and if you just take a step back and look at his story, and it's a really, really neat story from being the underdog and being just an absolute ball of grit and determination that he is.
Yeah. Yes, the passion you see, and certainly during full swing, you saw it. He loves the sport. What's the most memorable round of golf you've played?
Man, I played a lot of fun rounds. I'd say when I think I was about a junior in high school, my dad and my grandpa and me played. My grandpa was, I think he was like 81 at the time, and he shot 37 on. He had no idea that he even shot that. But I just remember, just kind of watching him make every putt and just hit a lot of fairways and greens. And that was one of the last times I really played with him. So yeah, I mean, I think that was a lot of fun for us.
That's awesome. A few more questions. Walk or ride? How do you like to navigate the course?
I mean, I'd honestly prefer to walk, but if the group rides, I'll obviously hop in a buggy.
Yeah. What's your go-to snack or drink on the course?
I mean, if the golf course has Uncrustables, I'm going to take that. And then
That's awesome.
Non-alcoholic beverage, Gatorade, an alcoholic beverage, at my golf course, it's called a 1-iron. I don't even know what's in it, but it's tremendous.
It's called a 1-iron?
called a 1-iron. Yeah, I don't even know what it is, but it's fantastic. It's a better version of a transfusion.
I was going to say, we'll follow up afterwards because I'd love to hear what the recipe is.
Yeah.
Last question. What's your dream golf destination that you haven't played at yet?
Man, I'd probably say Scotland. I'd really like to go over to Scotland and play. I think that's how golf's really meant to be played. And, I just can't get enough of the architecture, the humps and the bumps, the brown. It just looks tremendous.
Yeah, that's awesome. Definitely a bucket list item. Well, Jared, I appreciate the time. Before we let you jump, any advice you want to share with either current entrepreneurs in the golf space or future ones that can lean on your experience and look at as guidance as to how to help build theirs?
I don't know if I have a lot of advice for current entrepreneurs. I could probably use theirs more than I give them. But for the future, I think the biggest thing is really understand your value proposition, which obviously that's obvious. I mean, you probably heard that a million times, but also the hardest thing is going to be to start. Like if you can start, you've overcome the hardest thing. That means you've quit your job. That means that you've got some sort of plan. And that means that you're okay with risk and the unknown. And so if you can start, that will be the hardest thing throughout that journey. Doesn't mean it gets easier. There's still going to be a lot of hard days, but that will be the hardest thing, is to actually take the guts to go out and start something. Just, do it. We're only on this earth one time. Things will change in our life. And so just get out there and get after it.
I love it. It's great advice. Before, last thing, tell the audience where they could find you on all the socials and the website, and just give people a chance to keep up with you and your story.
Yeah, a website for Hanna Golf, hannagolf.com, and the website for Perfect Putt. The newsletter is perfectputt.substack.com. And, would love to chat with anybody, or, send me an email. My email's all over both those websites. So feel free to shoot me a message if you have any questions.
Awesome. Well, Jared, I really appreciate the time, and this has been great to hear your story, and wish you all the luck and look forward to continuing to follow along.
Right on, Ari. Thanks so much.